are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken them by surprise.
That sudden drop in temperature as half an hour ago, Mexican officials closed the border in the light of so many U.S. refugees.
Be prepared to go live to Los Angeles.
Are you getting this on camera?
What you see is happening now.
Look over there behind me! That's a tornado! Yes! A twister!
This is just massive.
Large numbers of large and creepy-looking slugs are showing up on Bay Area beaches. Authorities are getting phone calls asking, what are they?
Officials detected an increase of shallow quakes in late April. They recorded nearly 90 tremors on June 7th. They estimate 1,700 tons of the volcanic gas sulfur dioxide was released on June 11th.
The storm didn't relent overnight. It took aim at Sealy, where cars struggled to make their way through the newly submerged roads. Rough waters continued to lash the seawall of the Galveston shoreline, water filling the island's streets. Tropical Storm Bill arrived on Monday with 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, whipping palm trees.
From San Diego to San Francisco, creatures from the sea are swarming ashore, prompted by warmer-than-usual Pacific waters. Large numbers of large and creepy-looking slugs are showing up on Bay Area beaches. Authorities are getting phone calls asking, what are they? They're called sea hares, but the purple blobs look nothing like hares, trust us. Some alarmed beachgoers even think they are discarded human organs. They're really harmless plant eaters.
There may have been a minor volcanic eruption in central Japan. They say there are heavy clouds surrounding Mount Asama, but they have observed ash in the area. The agency officials have found a small amount of ash 4 kilometers north of the mountain. The more than 2,500-meter high volcano straddles Nagano and Gunma prefectures. Officials detected an increase of shallow quakes in late April. They recorded nearly 90 tremors on June 7th. They estimate 1,700 tons of the volcanic gas sulfur dioxide was released on June 11th. That's around 20 times more compared to surveys in May. The agency raised its alert level to 2 on a scale of 5 last week. Mount Asama last erupted in May 2009.
Millions of Americans face the threat of dangerous flooding from the former tropical storm Bill. The system weakened to a depression overnight, but powerful downpours continue this morning, flooding roads throughout Texas.
Some areas of the country could see up to a foot of rain from this storm. This morning, flash flood watches stretch from Texas to Illinois as Bill heads north. Omar Villafranca is in Sealy, Texas. Omar, good morning.
Good morning. The storm made its way here last night into Sealy. It's about 80 miles inland, and the rain has slowed down, but there are still plenty of submerged streets. In fact, the dangerous water prompted multiple rescues overnight. The storm didn't relent overnight. It took aim at Sealy, where cars struggled to make their way through the newly submerged roads. Rough waters continued to lash the seawall of the Galveston shoreline, water filling the island's streets. Tropical Storm Bill arrived on Monday with 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, whipping palm trees. Headlights poked through the nearly blinding rain.
Living in Galveston the past 3 years, haven't seen anything like this.
The swell shattered a pier in Port Alto, where rushing floodwaters swept through the beachside community. The shores of the Lone Star State were hit hard, leaving behind debris-lined roads and soaked neighborhoods.
The waves just started coming over and just flooding the whole area.
As the system moves north, it's expected to bring nearly a foot of rain to parts of Texas and Oklahoma, hitting some of the waterlogged plains that flooded last month. Summer classes are canceled here in Sealy because the rain is expected to pick up again. Eastern parts of Texas all the way up to Oklahoma could see tornadoes because of the storm. Anthony?
Omar, thanks.
It's called Laudato Si, or Praised Be, on the care of our common home. Pope Francis's encyclical on the moral aspects of climate change and protecting the environment. Church leaders say that this is the first time the release of a papal encyclical has been so anticipated. A Brazilian climate change group even created an epic theatrical trailer for the Pope's words.
If we destroy creation, creation will destroy us. Time to take out the trash.
Upon us fighting for God's creation.
But what exactly is an encyclical? It's the most authoritative teaching document a pope can issue and signifies a high priority issue for the pope. It's usually written for Catholic clergy and lay people, although Pope Francis has said that his encyclical is addressed to everyone, religious or not. Encyclicals aren't infallible, but they're not just the Pope's opinion either.
Ma oggi siamo chiamati a ricordare tutti.
And Catholics are called to take them seriously. Pope Francis is not the first pope to express concern about the environment. Pope Paul VI, back in 1971, talked about the exploitation and degradation of nature by man. John Paul II and Pope Benedict have also added their voices to the topic. But Francis is the first pope ever to dedicate an entire encyclical to ecological concerns.
I don't get economic policy from my bishops or my cardinals or from my pope.
A move which has worried conservatives who fear it will be seen as an endorsement of a liberal agenda on climate change and population control, and be bad news for big business and oil. As the first pope from the developing world, Pope Francis's emphasis is on the connection between the destruction of the Earth's resources and its impact on the poor. The timing of the document's release is also significant, coming the same year as the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Paris this December. With the Pope's popularity, this encyclical will be a milestone that places the Roman Catholic Church at the forefront of one of the major scientific and moral issues of our times. Delia Gallagher, CNN, Rome.
It's America's most advanced fighter jet. And the stealthy F-22 Raptor could be heading to Europe in the future to counter Russian aggression, says the head of the U.S. Air Force. The biggest threat on my mind is what's happening with Russia and the activities of Russia, Air Force Secretary Deborah James said, quoted by several publications. As tensions between Russia and the West mount, NATO is changing its posture, showing off its capabilities in maneuvers like this recent amphibious assault exercise in Sweden involving American forces. And the U.S. is also planning to station weapons, including tanks and fighting vehicles, in Eastern European NATO member countries for the first time since the end of the Cold War. All this as Russia announced it will increase its nuclear arsenal by 40 additional missiles.
This is something which we are addressing, and it's also one of the reasons why we now are increasing the readiness and the preparedness of our forces.
Some members, especially Eastern European nations close to Russia's borders, have increased their military spending. But not everyone is equally pitching in, with many Western European NATO members still not meeting requirements to spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense.
There isn't a common perception of what the threat is. For the East Europeans, the threat is existential. It is immediate, it's on their borders. For the West Europeans, the threat is still one that is more or less theoretical.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned the West not to build up military capabilities close to its borders. If someone threatens our territories, we will have to aim our armed forces and modern attack capabilities at those who threaten us, he said. What else can we do? Russia does not currently have a weapon as advanced as the F-22. The jets could play a major role if deployed, as NATO seeks to ramp up its deterrent capabilities on its eastern borders. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, London.
People who live on Maui say they're being overwhelmed by mosquitoes. They say they're everywhere, and it's worse than ever. Bridget Namata is digging deeper to find out what's behind the spike and if the mosquitoes are dangerous to your health. Bridget.
I'm told the mosquitoes on Maui are attacking aggressively, Marissa, especially at night. And health officials tell me the mosquitoes found on Maui are known to carry a disease. Maui residents we spoke with are fed up.
Yeah, lately get loaded mosquitoes our place. Especially all over you get them. Yeah. Up country, downtown, where we work and stuff.
Lately, my experience has been, we've been having a lot of it, more so I would say the past couple of days. I'm thinking that it's related to the lack of trades, but I'm not really sure. We've had a lot of rain over the past couple of months. I'm sure there's a lot of water pooling throughout, and so that's, prime breeding grounds for them.
I talked to Peter Oshiro with the Department of Health, who says they're aware of the issue. Oshiro says the night biters are called Culex mosquitoes, but they don't know what's causing the increase in pests.
We really don't know the reason why. We haven't investigated into it, and the Department of Health typically, because of a lack of resources, does not go out to investigate slight upticks in mosquito populations, even when the public complains about it.
Culex mosquitoes can carry the West Nile virus, but Oshiro says residents should not be alarmed.
Our message to the public that this is not a public health concern. Mosquito populations throughout the state will go up and down in very localized area, depending on the environmental conditions.
The Department of Health suggested residents do the following to keep mosquitoes away: drain open containers, hose down plants that collect water, and get rid of standing water around the house. We stopped by Marmac Ace hardware store, who told us they ordered extra supplies to combat mosquitoes.
I just think it's going to get worse as the weeks go on. Right now, I think it's just the beginning of the problem that we have. I had people coming in from Costco right down the road over here saying that you just walk out of Costco and there's mosquitoes all over the place.
But the state assures residents not to worry.
At the most, it's going to be a nuisance to people.
Culex mosquitoes prefer biting at dawn or after dusk. Its bite is itchy and can be painful, and it lives from 10 to 14 days. Bridget Namata, KHON2 News.
21-year-old Dylan Roth is in custody, caught in North Carolina, armed with a gun.
That terrible human being who would go into a place of worship and people were praying and kill them is now in custody.
It's not known if the gun found is the murder weapon, but Roth is suspected of killing 9 people inside the historic Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, founded in 1816.
We woke up today and the heart and soul of South Carolina was broken.
Just after 8 p.m. Wednesday night, Roth entered the church. He was invited to join a Bible study group.
He sat next to my cousin, Reverend Clemente Pinckney, throughout the entire Bible study. At the conclusion of the Bible study, from what I understand, they just start hearing loud noises just ringing out.
Witnesses told police that around 9 p.m., Roth stood up and said that he was there to shoot black people. He allegedly then took out his handgun and opened fire, killing 9.
Can you please send out an EMS command page advising of an active shooter, multiple people down?
First responders rushed to the scene.
Several victims regarding that active shooter. Give me at least 4 medic units plus 2 supervisors on that call, please.
3 people survived the shooting. The local NAACP president was told by a family member that one survivor received a chilling message from the shooter who told her, quote, "I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to spare you so you can tell them what happened." Tonight, authorities are looking into Roth's background and if he had help in orchestrating what is being investigated as a hate crime.
We'll do search warrants, we'll do interviews, we'll go back and try to put together why this might have happened.
Tonight, vigils are being held around the country as families in South Carolina grieve.
In a stun gun incident now called a homicide. Weapons often used to control suspects, but they can be deadly. And tonight, the death of a Branford man has been ruled a homicide after police used a stun gun on him. It has happened more and more in our state. Are police going too far? We're digging for answers in that tonight. We wanted to know if that is happening, so News 8 investigators went to check it out.
Well, that incident happened in Branford back in March, and while the medical examiner has ruled the man's death a homicide, that doesn't mean that the police officer intentionally hurt him. News 8's Jason Newton is live in Branford tonight, where he talked to a legal expert to find out exactly what this all means. Jason.
And well, homicide at its basic meaning is just a medical definition and nothing more, but it does give investigators another piece of evidence as they consider this still pending case. The state medical examiner determined that it was a homicide caused by a Branford police taser that killed a man in March. But a homicide does not determine whether any criminal charges will follow, since homicide itself doesn't mean a crime was committed. Quinnipiac law professor William Dunlap explains.
When a medical examiner makes a decision like this, it really is a medical decision. It's not a legal decision.
Branford police encountered David Werblow after they say he was trying to enter passing cars on Bourbon Street. Police say he was hit with the taser after getting inside a parked vehicle. Eyewitnesses described the event to News 8 in March.
I mean, the guy had jumped in his car and they were tasing him in the car. And then when he got out, they were tasing him on the ground and, they were telling him to stop.
Eyewitnesses also said that he was resisting police commands. The medical examiner's office says Werblow died after a physical altercation and electric shock while suffering from a psychotic episode due to schizophrenia.
Once the medical decision's been made, it's going to be up to the legal side to ask, should we look into this further and find out whether there was any criminal intent or any criminal behavior.
The state's attorney from Waterbury is now handling the investigation. She will decide if the case merits any criminal charges against the officer who used the taser. Branford police refused to comment on the pending investigation. A statement they released at the time of the incident reads in part, quote, "We take every use of force by our officers very seriously. We realize that conducted electronic weapons are classified as a less than lethal weapon, however also realize their use can result in death and do not deploy them indiscriminately." Now, Brantford police told me earlier today that the 2 officers most immediately involved in that incident remain on administrative leave as the investigation continues. We're live in Brantford. Jason Newton, News 8.
Well, the overnight torrential rain has made the city waterlogged. As you can tell from the street behind me, it has almost become a river and make it very difficult for vehicles to pass, which they will create huge water splash everywhere and make it even difficult for residents to pass the street. To give you an example, you can see that the water has reached my leg with a height of almost 15 to 20 centimeters. And how heavy was the rain yesterday, as the rain has stopped now. And according to local official figures, that from Tuesday evening to Wednesday morning, the total rainfall has surpassed the total amount of rainfall of the entire raining season. And usually the raining season in Shanghai will last for around 20 days. And it's also a very difficult day for local residents, for all the commuters. And the local authority, they say that the emergency calls have reached 172% on Wednesday morning. And for 2 local airports, the capacity of those 2 airports, one in Hongqiao and one in Pudong, their capacity has cut by nearly 70%. Well, the orange rainstorm alert has been degraded to yellow alert, and more than 300 pumping stations in the city has been working around the clock to ease the situation before traffic peak.
The faucets for thousands of Californians could run dry within the next few days. New statewide restrictions may cut off water supplies in response to the historic drought. John Blackstone takes us to the Mountain House community about an hour east of San Francisco, where leaders are desperate for a solution to keep the water running.
The busy water park in Mountain House, California uses recycled water. It's a place where residents can briefly forget this community of 15,000 is threatened with having its only source of water cut off.
It's something that we don't have control over.
Dana Estrella Trujillo is a mother of 5.
I know other parts of the world go without water, but obviously that's something we're not accustomed to, so it's definitely scary.
Mountain House is facing the possibility of taps going dry because the state water board has ordered an end to pumping from rivers and streams where the community gets its water.
We have to cease and desist and shut down our water diversion entirely. No exceptions.
Ed Pattison, general manager of Mountain House, has spent the week searching for a way to keep the taps running.
So we're out on the open market looking for water to provide an alternative water supply to get us through the remainder of the year.
You're looking for extra water in California right now. There isn't any extra water in California.
Well, we're in a 4th year of a drought, and there's a lot of people out there looking for water.
Mountain House is a planned community that grew quickly more than a decade ago across what had been farmers' fields. The new town inherited century-old water rights that went along with the land. Those old water rights were thought to be sacred, but California's historic drought is changing the rules. At the water park, resident Sally Byer says those who live in Mountain House have been careful to conserve.
We all have low-flow toilets. It is a new community, so it's been designed to use less water.
But conservation only goes so far. What you got to do is
Pray for rain.
pray for rain.
Yes.
Ed Pattison is confident he'll find water before the taps go dry. But he, too, is praying for rain.
If we don't get it, the reality is next year, I think I've heard the state will be going off the cliff.
For CBS This Morning, John Blackstone, Mountain House, California.
Goodness, it gets more and more severe.
Yeah, and when you see that dry, crackly ground, it makes you go, whoa.
Yeah, and you can't make it rain. Yeah.
I'm going to pray for rain too for them. I want them to have rain there.
Körfez açıklarında ayrı ayrı 2 hortum belirdi. Bir süre sonra birleşen hortumlar en net Karşıyaka ve Bostanlı'dan görüldü.
Çapraz oldular, birbirlerinin içinden geçiyorlar. İzmir'de ilk defa böyle bir şey görüyoruz bana.
Hortumun etkisiyle deniz seviyesinde yükselme yaşandı. Ancak bir süre sonra yağmur başladı, ardından da hava açtı. İzmir Meteoroloji Bölge Müdürlüğü kentte gün boyu gök gürültülü sağanak yağış uyarısında bulundu. Bu görüntülerse İstanbul'dan. Tuzla açıklarında yağışla birlikte 2 hortum oluştu.
Birleşiyorlar bak şimdi. Birleşirlerse gitti.
Neyse ki korkulan olmadı. 2 hortum birbirleri etrafında döndükten sonra ortadan kayboldu.